So let's move on here to Arizona. Did any of you watch the hearing, and what did you think was the most compelling evidence? Something to keep in mind, in Arizona, Biden leads. What was leads like girl power? Biden leads Donald Trump by 11,000 votes in Arizona.
That's a
doesn't
lot.
matter because, interestingly enough, Fox News called it when Trump led Biden by 11 million.
They wanted to be first.
Yeah.
So there were some things that were claimed yesterday, and I want to say before we get to the mammoth possible fraud of the voting systems, right? Which, by the way, will also show you that in 2016, in 2018, the Democrats were very concerned with. There were formal complaints written up by Elizabeth Warren and Rachel Maddow. Right? Well, formal complaint from Elizabeth Warren. Rachel Maddow just bitched on the show.
Yeah.
But the point remains, they were concerned about it, and now that was a figment of your imagination.
Right.
Before we get to that, though, there are already enough issues that can wipe out the lead. Same thing in Georgia, right? They found 5,700 votes, and then you go, hold on a second, people out of state. Okay, well, that's gone. People who are double, okay, boom, gone. Trump wins. Same thing in Arizona. So let's start with this. The lead of 11,000 votes. Before we get to fraud, this is important. 2,000 votes. They use vacant lots and false addresses. Now, at first you say false addresses. I should have led with that. False addresses and vacant lots.
What are they, ground owls?
Vacant lots.
Could
Ewan McGregor's business in Fargo season 3 was the address posted. And then 6,000 voters were on the rolls with no listed sex, and they just had a generic date of birth, but don't take my word for it. This was in the hearing yesterday.
You have here voter database discrepancies. 6,000 voters, at least, entered into database with no sex and default date of birth. And they're non-existent in LexisNexis.
Correct, and I believe there will be a witness to discuss that later this morning.
So unless those can be discovered, those votes would have to be eliminated.
Correct. And
They also discovered over 2,000 votes that used a false address, an address of a vacant lot.
correct.
Now,
were they all the same?
there's a rule.
Everybody lives in this vacant lot.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was the Vacant Lot Club. Oh, boy, is my faith red. And leaking. What's with the leaking? It is... It's one of those, like, there's the rule, don't ever ask a question you don't know the answer to as a lawyer. Yeah. But Rudy Giuliani is taking it to the extreme.
He is.
And so, if we do not confirm those votes, they could, in fact, not be confirmed, correct? Yes. Good boy.
And that would be a bad thing if they did this thing, if they did the vacant lot thing.
So that's 8,000 votes.
Gone.
Boom. Gone. Now, I'm not saying that all of those 8,000 votes were voting for Joe Biden, but let's be honest, I don't think there are a lot of vacant lot Trump voters.
It's a niche.
I've looked at Nate Silver's analytics, his deep dives, and I didn't see vacant lot voters as a key demographic of Trump. Now we move on. 143,000 votes. They were dumped at 8 p.m. in Arizona.
Yeah.
I think this is after it was called, by the way. Fox News.
At least a couple hours after it was called.
Thanks! Thanks, Brett! And there were 143,000 votes dumped at 8 p.m. that actually surpassed the voting machine processing capability.
Again.
So again, what that means is happened. We talked about it with
situation.
Michigan. We've talked about it, I think, in Georgia. It's happened in a few states where they have a pretty good estimate of how many votes can be processed in this machine. And it was listen, and it's an estimate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, generally, before someone goes to the Olympics, let's say, they say, okay, we have a good estimate because of the pre-trials, the best time of Usain Bolt. Like, but he was 90 seconds behind. We didn't see that coming.
Yeah, exactly. You don't typically outperform by like 400%.
Right.
So
why don't we just get a machine and run some ballots through and see
what happens,
It almost seems like that would be too rudimentary. This is one of those things. Where's Bill Nye? Where are we doing? Why are we doing a science experiment? Can we buy a voting machine?
You can.
For crying out. Can we buy a voter and just see that's right, it's bullshit. There's no way to process 146,000 votes in 0 seconds.
Only if you try hard.
And here's something, too. I don't know how they prove this, but again, these are claims made under oath.
Yeah.
And they do it. So this is sworn testimony, and then they also have statistical evidence as well as some actual evidence that they have from screen grabs and videos. This is what they're claiming.
Yeah.
But not all of this information is publicly available. Ooh, Tucker Carlson said, I want it. Please, no, hold on. We have to wait till it's submitted in court. You suck. You won't be on my show because you suck. So
I want it.
Yeah, let's kneecap everyone who's doing God's work on our side because we don't get a scoop.
Yeah. Let's make it a tuck exclusive.
Yeah, tuck exclusive. You got tucked. All right.
Give me a exclusive.
I think that's the worst word I've ever heard.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Excuse me? Tuck exclusive. An estimated, we'll show you the clip, 35,000 votes. This is something that they claim was 35,000 votes were automatically embedded for every Democrat candidate running. Here's their claim.
So this is 143,100 votes that were injected. That was in excess of what the machines could have processed. In Pima County, Arizona, and the Democratic Party added fraud votes in the initial count to the vote by mail totals released at 8 p.m. on November 3rd. We weren't aware of this until after the fact. So there were approximately 35,000 fraud votes added to each Democratic candidate's vote totals.
Nothing to see here.
No.
No,
35,000.
And you know what? We're going to keep going through this. And I know on YouTube, all I was going to say is the election's been called.
Yeah.
What else you got?
Right. Yeah.
What else you got, Wojcicki? Come on, give us something to go on here. We're making some concrete claims. We're staking a reputation on it. A lot of people are. You just say nothing.
Yeah. And by the way, the guy who claimed the 35,000 actually turned over this statement and sent it to the Department of Justice and let them look into it. And he said there was a meeting that he was at. They talked about this. He said that they were able to do this. They've done it in years past. In the 2014 judicial race where they embed the votes, they spread them out. It's like this fully detailed thing. Now, it has to be proven.
It has to be proven.
Right? It's a claim right now, but it's like...
It's happened in the past.
Come on.
Which they say it has
Investigate
not.
at least.
Well, listen, if you say there's no precedence, as well as and it's never happened, why invest? No, there's precedents to have happened before, and then there's also precedent that would both apply here. You're not Bill.
No, I was questioning.
You claimed that you killed him. You put him in a shallow grave and you filled out his ballot for Biden.
No. He's lying in an empty lot somewhere waiting to vote.
Is he? Oh, yeah. You didn't even dig a shallow grave?
Why would I do that?
Serial killer.
Always a shallow.
Always a shallow grave.
It's because it's lazy. You're lazy.
By the
you can't
way,
dig a full grave?
If someone takes me out, whether it's ISIS or whether it's Antifa, do what you want, but just I ask for at least a mid-level depth grave.
Right.
And then this is something, again, what's important is when they do these hearings, the reason that they're doing these hearings, okay, is to stay out in front of the public eye because the media wants you to just believe there's a coronation that Biden has won. Good thing that AP doesn't actually elect presidents.
Oh.
Yeah.
We actually have a process of electors that goes through a state legislature, and then we have an electoral college, and people can issue objections all the way up to January 6th. So good thing it's not AP or the Fox News desk with the crotch cam.
It's a good crotch cam.
Wow.
It is the crotch cam.
I don't want to see
I worked there, and it was called the crotch cam. It's a cam that shows the crotch. It's self-explanatory. It's the crotch camera.
Does its job.
1.9 million mail-in votes. And this matters because I talked about this yesterday. In Michigan, where I was registered to vote both in Michigan and in Texas. I don't think we've had calls back from the clerks, by the way.
No.
I called the clerk. I called the clerks to check on Grandma Ruthie's vote. It turns out that maybe in Michigan, they store your absentee voting tracking status for a little bit of time, and then it just disappears.
Oh.
That's what I've heard thus far. But I want to say, but can someone actually confirm that? I don't think my wife voted.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think her vote was counted. But here's the thing. They also just sent out ballot requests, like we said, everyone unsolicited in Michigan, to my old house, and they didn't verify signatures. They didn't verify signatures the proper way, for example, in Georgia. So it matters if you aren't verifying signatures because mail-in ballots, when they had to be requested in years prior, they were rejected at a rate of 30 times what we've seen this election, largely because there were either no signatures or they didn't match. So in this case now, we have 1.9 million mail-in votes that were not validated at all by verifying signatures. Here they are.
The reporting numbers from Pima and Maricopa County merged election day votes with write-in votes with absentee ballots. So there's no way to, in the publicly available data, to parse those votes. Maricopa County had 1.9 million mail-in ballot requests. So, and those, there was a Maricopa County official on videotape that did say that they did not validate the signatures on the write-in ballots this year.
Okay, not to shortchange information, but get a better ballroom. So this is another thing where they claim, this is a claim that you've seen repeated, by the way, which Snopes and AP, I believe, fact-checked all as true and no Pinocchio. Surprising.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Okay.
And that's the thing, too, is just these broad claims. Like, they will make fact checks of Donald Trump. We did this with Lee Dorn back in the day, where he went through 50 Washington Post fact checks, where it was like, he said, I was there in the afternoon. They go, fact, he was actually there at 6:30 p.m., which is early evening.
Not technically.
But no fact checks for broad claims like this is the safest election ever on record. How many times have you heard that, right?
Yeah.
That's probably the fact check below this video.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, if you're watching this video, hit like right now because
Like
that's what gets us through the fact checks.
It's right above the fact check.
So this is the claim, the
like
safest election in modern history, and they debunked that pretty quickly by showing that the machines were, in fact, they're not supposed to be, connected to the internet, which of course makes them very vulnerable, and they show you exactly how, because, again, this matters. The media will say there are no receipts. Let's present receipts.
Director of CISA at DHS, and he basically said that this election was the most secure in history. And partially that was because the states do an excellent job of validating voter rolls, and that this equipment is not connected to the internet. The Dominion Suite User's Manual is about 1.5 inches thick. In the user's manual, it tells operators to connect the Ethernet cords to the router, and it is the systems are connected to the internet.
I went
Can
through
you prove it?
and physically
Oh,
traced
shoot.
all the cables from all the tabulators and adjudicators to the local data center at the top. We have election officials that did confirm that that was connected to the internet, but they said none of the tabulators or anything else were connected to the
Well, if
internet.
the tabulators
I can
weren't.
show physical connection between those tabulator machines, the Ethernet cables, two routers or managed switches
Oh,
up to the
skunked
telephone
again.
12 feet away.
Dang it.
But it's a router type of device. And so all these tabulators were connected to one another, all the adjudicators were connected to one another, the local data center that they acknowledged was connected to the internet were connected to these tabulators.
Well, it
and
wasn't going
adjudicators.
anywhere nefarious.
We did observe packet
hell.
traffic that were going from the U.S. Now, we don't know if it was specifically Dominion traffic going, but to a server in Frankfurt.
Think about this. This mirrors exactly. I want to go to your point. This
no,
mirrors
okay.
exactly. There's no evidence that there's ever been election fraud.
Yeah.
Then it goes, well, okay, there is some evidence of election fraud, but it's very, very small. Then it's okay. Well, there has been some kind of widespread election fraud, but not enough to actually change the election. We've seen that same thing right here.
Yeah.
This is the safest, most secure election in modern American history because the machines were not connected to the internet. Well, hold on. They were fine, but the tabulators weren't connected to the internet. They were hardwired. Okay, maybe they were hardwired to the internet, but it's not like this was accessible to Frankfurt, Germany, and foreign actors. Son of a bitch, just stop.
Somebody. Can I get better notes?
Yeah, there is no amount of evidence that will convince the media, and that's why
No.
this battle shouldn't be fought in the media because it's not going to win it there.
Right.
The battle is being fought in the courts, and that's the right way to do it.
Ooh, said Tucker Carlson.
Legislatures. The state legislatures, and that's why they're
I need my
doing
Chuck
this.
exclusive.
Yeah.
I really like Chuck
Yeah.
Exclusive.
I hate it. I hate it.
I want my Tuck exclusive. Sidney Powell goes, no. They don't have to debunk it. That's the issue. The media has no accountability whatsoever. That's what scares me. Think about it right now. Not only the media has no accountability, we know that, and now you have an administration if Biden actually gets in without the objections in January 6th. Anyone who doesn't issue objections who's a member of the Republican Party, primary them.
Well,
he's not going to be held accountable by the media, and the media is being held accountable to no one. And by the way, there's this unholy alliance between legacy media and big tech because they now want a stranglehold on new media because they're losing. That is what is most terrifying to me, is that we end up like Norway, where you can't say kids can't take puberty blockers without being banned from society, like a Black Mirror episode. Go ahead, Wade.
I was just going to say CNN doesn't have to cover it because it's not like they can go, you may have heard this crazy rumor on Facebook. You haven't heard it on Facebook because you can't report it on Facebook. You may have heard this crazy rumor on YouTube or on any of the other media sources. No. They just don't. They can ignore it because everybody has been siloed off into the smallest news.
And then you go to a Thanksgiving party, which, by the way, this is also why they didn't want you to have gatherings, because they don't even want you to debate or have these conversations with your family members. Don't have them in the digital town hall.
Yeah.
Also, don't have them in the home, and don't have them in the actual town. Just don't have them. don't have them. And you talk to someone and you go, well, hold on a second, I do think that this election has been compromised. And your family member goes, I think it's the safest in modern American history. You go, what about the 1.9 million that weren't checked for verification? Well, I haven't read it. Well, have you? I haven't watched it, haven't seen it, haven't read it, haven't heard it. What about the fact that there are over 10,000 votes in states like Nevada or Georgia from people out of state? I haven't read it, I haven't seen it, I haven't heard it, so it doesn't exist. Of course it doesn't exist because it's not on Facebook, it's not on YouTube. And I will say I'm actually very grateful that YouTube just falsely fact checks us and they still let this go up.
It's sure.
Algorithms be damned.
Good
we
for them.
only get the people who actually tune in, which means, by the way, hit the notification bell.
Yes.
If you are subscribed every Monday through Thursday, sometimes Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, because subscriptions don't mean a whole lot.
Watch Good Morning Mug Club live every Monday through Thursday at 10:15 Eastern.